Hey, everybody, I'm Chris Metzler, the Director of Programming here at the Green Film Festival, San Francisco. Um, it's always great as we kind of sift through submissions to kind of find the gems that we get a chance to show you at the festival. And you just saw the wonderful documentary Melt, and we're lucky enough to have filmmaker Betsy Biggs here. Welcome, Betsy.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Um, so maybe a good place to start is, um, deciding to make any film, requires a little bit of a leap of faith. What was kind of going on in your mind before you started this project and knew that um, you wanted to spend the time to pursue it?
Yeah, when I first thought about this project, I am a composer by training. I've also worked on several films, but this is my first real film, not student short. And what I was really interested in at first was this idea of Winter's Loss, but I was actually thinking of it as it would have been a much cheaper film to make. I was thinking of using a found footage and composing music to it. Um, I've been very inspired by films like Philip Glass's Koyaanisqatsi with Godfrey Reggio and similar films that bring music and image together in ways that bring you emotionally in. So, in my initial idea, it was a much less ambitious film where I sat really in my editing studio and put together found footage and music. Um, but as I worked on it, the more I realized that I felt like my actual experience in the landscape was really necessary, that it was really important. This wasn't, I mean, somebody could make an interesting found footage film, I think, but I felt like I needed to do it. And that was great. And it was also a huge leap of faith because to bring a crew to Greenland, which is incredibly expensive as well as expensive to get to for a month with not much funding seemed really difficult. But as you said, it was a leap of faith. And I just told myself I was going to do it. And things worked out. You know, I had a wonderful cinematographer who had just been my student. He had just graduated from the University of Colorado, Boulder, where I teach. And he was willing to come for free as long as I paid his way, which was incredible because, I owe him everything. And, I just started really trying to communicate my excitement about the film and what I thought it could be to people. And I found support um, most immediately from the executive producer, Jill Mazursky, and Susan Capitelli, my producer. And I don't know, we made it happen somehow. I have to give a lot of thanks to my mother um, for coming along with me and not only spending time with my daughter, but I felt like the family bond of three generations of women, or women and a girl, was a really important part of that kind of lineage was really important to my experience of that landscape.
Oh, most definitely. How do you think your background in music kind of affected the way that you made the film and the way you see the world as a filmmaker?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And strangely enough, a lot of the I've done quite a lot of music and image projects, and a lot of them have a really intricate fast editing, which is of course very different from most of this film until you get towards the end with the flashes or glitches. And I think that I mean, I was also really inspired by Sharon Lockhart's films and this kind of idea of slow films. And I think what happened to me was when I sat in those landscapes or walked through them, there was something about the witnessing and the real time speed of what was actually happening. And I think I've spent a lot of time listening. When I lived in the Bay Area, I studied, my first composition teacher was a woman named Pauline Oliveros, whose practice really centered around deep listening at Mills College. And
We screened a
um,
documentary about her at SF Doc Fest earlier this
oh
year.
yeah, I've been wanting to see that so badly. Yeah, I was in very close touch with her right up to when she died. I interviewed her about a month before she passed.
Oh wow.
And she's still her spirit is still with us, but one of the things she really taught me was just to sit and really listen. And so I do think that, lots of people can do that for sure, but I do think I'm maybe more willing than some people to just sit in a quiet landscape and not have quick edits go by, because I'm really paying attention to the sonic and to what's happening sonically that's making the landscape come alive. So I don't
Mm.
know if that's part of it. It's funny because when I first was asking Troy Fairbanks, the cinematographer, to take some shots when we were on the ice shelf, the ice cap up there, he really didn't believe me that I wanted 10-minute long shots. He would do 4-minute shots. I mean, it was so outside the norm for him for the length of shot he normally takes. And it really took him a while to get used to the fact that no, I really wanted 10-minute long shots.
That's crazy. That it's so cool because just the context, of folks is that, yeah, typically a cinematographer, if they're filming like landscape shots, it's like 10 or 15 seconds. It's like, if
Exactly.
you're doing some verte, or even, like with like wildlife documentaries, it's like the camera's not on the entire time. It's like they're waiting for the moment. So, um,
Exactly. Exactly.
well, that's such a cool process. Like, um, once you got there, what kind of surprised you that you know couldn't have anticipated before you were on the journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, so much of what you read, really, I think about any place, right? You see sort of travel articles and they play up all the landscape elements. So I wasn't surprised by the icebergs, even though they were just as gorgeous as I thought they were. I think that I was surprised. There were a few things that surprised me. One was that how that well, okay, one thing that really surprised me, just because I'm used to the United States or Europe or most of Asia, was that towns and cities are not connected by networks of roads. They just exist. You have to fly to them, and then you have to fly if you want to go to another town, or take a boat, or take a sled of dogs, or take a snowmobile. You can't
Oh, wow.
get from one town to another, even if it's not very far, except by air, by sea, or by land via sled or snowmobile. And that really surprised me. It's possible that right around the capital city of Nuuk, there might be a few outlying kind of suburbs. But other than that, even something that's a couple hundred miles away, you're on an airplane or a boat.
Oh, wow. That
So
is
that was a
different.
surprise to me. Yeah, I had, I had thought. I mean, I found that out before I actually got there, of course, when I started researching the logistics. But in general, that was something that surprised me that I think most people don't know about Greenland, and also just how strong the local culture there is, the Greenlandic culture, which is of course very similar to Inuit culture in Alaska and Canada. Um, there's been a real resurgence of native pride, and it was really wonderful to see. And then I guess the third surprise was the whales. I did not anticipating seeing so many whales, and it was absolutely
Oh,
incredible.
wow.
We were at dinner one night, and my daughter counted 57 whales' tails that came up out of the water, which
Oh,
was
man.
incredible.
So beautiful. Well, you've made such a great film, and really also looking forward to folks to be able to see it in the theater. It's just so immersive. I always kind of remind our audience that we're lucky that filmmakers like you share their films with us so early in their process, and for the films that kind of move us. It's like we're kind of the grassroots street team, for for filmmakers like you to kind of help spread the word. So what are ways that we can kind of continue to follow the film and then also your career?
Yeah, so I have a website, betsybiggs.org, BETSEYBIGGS. And everything that I've ever done is there and will continue to be there, including updates on Melt: The Memory of Ice. You know, there's sort of two versions of Melt, actually. One is the film, Melt: The Memory of Ice, and the other is the installation, the art installation version of that, which I call Melt Topographic Remix, which has been at a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
museums. And that's a more immersive, slow experience where people can come in and out. Um, so I'm hoping that it will be in other museums and galleries nationally, internationally, including in the Bay Area. And that's probably the best place at my website. I also have a Substack, which you can get to through my website. That's probably the easiest way, which is a kind of a
Very cool. Well,
newsletter.
okay, well, awesome. I'll have to check that out. And, Betsy, thanks again for making the film and, of course, being part of the festival.
Well, it's amazing to be here, and having gone on the trip and really had this experience with my mother, Ann Reeves, and with my, at the time, 5-year-old daughter, Hazel Biggs. It's really been amazing to see where the film goes. Last year, Hazel actually recorded the singing for the last 20 minutes of the film at the recording studio where I recorded the Moving Star Ensemble that sings most of it. So it's really wonderful to come full circle and experience it in the theater. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Very cool, Betsy. Have a great week.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.